Mare, our next guest, is ready to join me on stage, and he is currently the co-founder of the platform Zero Climate and Energy Campus in Rotterdam and Lisbon, where technology ventures are being scaled in the domains of hydrogen emission reductions, energy storage, and ocean health. I'm happy to announce here on stage Mare Straetmans.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. It could not have been a better bridge. I'm shame he just went off, but I think Robert Siemens just gave the best introduction for us that I could imagine, especially with relation to startups and entrepreneurship. So I want to guide you through a little bit how we look at this. First of all, a little bit background of me. I'm also happy that Robert Siemens talked about PortExcel. I'm the founder of PortExcel, the original founder. In 2016, I set up a startup accelerator for ports, the first one in the world. After that, I've set up the digital transformation in Van Noord, a large corporate. I've also worked at the Port Authority, and I've set up 2 investment funds in Rotterdam. The Rotterdam Port Fund, 40 million investment fund, and we currently have another investment fund. Just to mention, what you're going to hear more in the next half hour is also the relation between large corporates, investors, and startups. That's a golden triangle for innovation. I'm a bit worried because we are pretty proud, I think, of people in Rotterdam. I assume not everybody's from Rotterdam, about niet lullen maar poetsen. But what I've heard this morning is very much, a lot of lullen and weinig poetsen. And I think it's becoming so persistent that we're going to have an identity crisis as a city. And this is also a little bit what my story today is about. We need entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the key enabler for innovation. We have close to 0 R&D centers, corporate R&D centers here in the Netherlands anymore. Maybe ASML does something, I think Philips does something, probably AXO, but there's very little R&D centers. Yes, we have universities, I'll come back to that later, and schools that do great stuff, but we need innovation. And why do we need it? And that's also why we started. First of all, our climate. Our climate is pretty screwed in many different ways. As Victoria already mentioned this morning to me, saying, hey, Mare, it means the sea. Yes, my name is the sea, it's not a coincidence. I got it from my mother, she loves the sea. I love the sea, and that's also why I love the port. We're very much sea-related business. But the sea is pretty broken, in a sense. Everything about the sea is in a really bad state, just like the rest of our planet. A lot of the solutions that we need to fix this, the best way probably is to die or consume less, right? That's the best way for us to make a good impact on the climate. But the third best option is to scale new solutions that are going to fix this. We need new solutions, and that's where entrepreneurship comes in. Another one is, of course, that the corporates are too slow. And they should be, right? They're a large organization, they do relevant stuff, and they need to be smart about how they do it, safe and risk-averse. Because if they don't, they get big problems, big explosions, big things go wrong with safety or other things. We cannot have that. So they need entrepreneurship to speed up innovation. So more and more corporates start to see that they need startups to find innovation that's going to improve their business. So in better products, better safety, better digital innovation. There's more and more, you see that Nike is working together with a beautiful small organization in Amsterdam on clothing. They look for smart startups that make new stuff that can help their brand and their business. So corporates also need it. And finally, Rotterdam needs it. If we want to build the economy of the future, that's not going to be built by the current corporates. It's going to come from the new businesses that start here and grow their business. The average growth rate of a startup is 200%. You would not find it in any regular SME or corporate. So growing the economy, you need entrepreneurship. A little bit my vision on the challenges in the port. You've heard a lot about from the Port of Rotterdam and also from the Elderman, but there's a lot of innovation potential in the port, so to say. So that's how we look at the challenge that we see in the port these days. So there are some big ones, of course, the decarbonization of shipping. ships emit exhaust. We need to reduce that. 3% of total emissions worldwide is coming from ships. How can we reduce that? Nothing new, very relevant. More and more needs to do about it. And I think this is the most technical slide you will have for me. You'll see that each of these, we have some solution fields. So decarbonization of shipping, you can think about emission reduction, you can think about carbon compensation, you can think about alternative fuels, all solutions, directions for this one problem. Another one you see is the role of hydrogen. Hydrogen is coming more and more into play. I'll explain you a little bit about it on the next slide. But we need to produce hydrogen, we need use cases for hydrogen, we need green electricity for hydrogen, right? So all these are opportunities for the entrepreneurs in the port. And another one is renewable energy. We need more renewable energy, green energy. It's coming from offshore wind, it's coming from solar, it's also coming from tidal, more and more coming in there. But we have challenges and opportunities in the grids. The grids are being congested, so can we find smart solutions to help the grid manage the load of the use and production of green energy better. Also the energy storage, batteries, more and more is coming in. And of course you have the energy production with the offshore winds. The interesting thing is, and that's also where we make a difference, these seem to be totally disconnected areas or fields, but they're not. As you can see, there's almost one single line through all of these. Offshore wind is green power. You need green power for hydrogen production. If you go from hydrogen use cases, it's very often the maritime fuels. So the system thinking of what's happening is where also you guys can make a difference. If we think more about not one single, I have one solution, and many startups come in the fields, they have one solution, it's not very relevant nor for a client, a corporate, nor for the whole industry. So thinking about what can your solution do on all these aspects is really going to help build the business. Now, nothing better than a couple of examples, also examples of challenges and examples of startups that are working in this. As I mentioned, our oceans have a big problem. The biggest problem is acidification, which comes through there's too much CO2 in the ocean. Right? So the ocean absorbs CO2, and that's really damaging ocean life, biodiversity, etc., etc. So we are working with a startup, actually from Amsterdam at this moment, Icelandic team, and they take CO2 out of the water, and they use the CO2 in this case to make maritime fuels. Very smart technology, reducing the level of CO2 in our waters. Very interesting. Another one, and that's very relevant here because SEC is involved in this one, is this startup, we need uses for hydrogen. So it's great to have hydrogen, but if nobody's using hydrogen, there will not be a market, there will not be a value chain of hydrogen. So somebody needs to use hydrogen. So we have a startup that made a fuel cell that you can put in a lot of machines, vehicles, and also ships. And they are actually working with the Ab Initio, the ship from SEC, to have the engine powered by this fuel cell that uses hydrogen. Now, I told you about green power. We have a lot of green energy being produced in offshore wind. It's being produced at night in the North Sea. That brings a problem. We don't use electricity at night, or not that much. So how do we get the power from the North Sea at night to the relevant applications here on land? There's many ways. You can do it with batteries. Bit difficult with the water. So hydrogen is a big solution, and that's where this startup comes in. They produce hydrogen through this machine, through an electrolyzer, at the moment that we have a surplus of green electricity. Another one, a bit more in the digital field, is that a lot of ships still lack connectivity. So they are not connected, they don't know a lot about the ship, a lot about the data of the ship, and they don't extract the data from the ship to do smart analysis with these data. This technology has a small box, you can put it on the ship, you extract all the data, and you are able to run all kind of analysis, dashboards with the data from the ship. Big potential also, for example, in emission saving. Can you do smarter routing? Can you do smarter use of your engine? Can you find out when your engine needs maintenance so it uses less fuel? So a lot of these solutions are not happening now, and these are all startups now in and around Rotterdam trying to build their business. The first three I mentioned did not seem digital, but they all have a digital aspect as well. They're all digitally facilitated, enabled, and very much like early discussion about the digital integrity, safety. We are more and more electrifying our energy grids. That is a huge safety risk. If there's one way to make unrest in a different country, it's to tamper with somebody's energy field, right? So we are digitalizing this, so the digital safety of this is crucial. So that's a little bit about examples. So where does this happen, this entrepreneurship? So what does it mean to be a startup? A startup, if I talk about a startup, it means that you make a product, you have a product or service that you can scale up fast. And very often, especially that's where we focus, something with a technology edge. So something that's a smart solution that comes from a university, or a smart solution that is thought by one of the corporates or somewhere in the garage. Sometimes it's also just bringing together already some existing solutions that together make a new solution for the segment, right? You see now ships using sails, for example, to reduce emission. That's not really a new technology, right? It's quite probably a couple of 100 years old. The new is maybe in the way we use it and the kind of sail and the way we approach the sail and operate the sail, but the whole concept is not new. So if you're starting a startup, so I hope also it's probably mainly the second half of the group to inspire you to start your own business, because this is where you really can make an impact. Setting up a startup is something that very often you start with an idea, saying, hey, I see a problem, I see an issue. A lot of the maritime companies are still not very digital, for example. One of the things you can make a difference is, hey, can we digitalize some of the processes that these companies are using? They're using Excel files. I bet some companies are even faxing still. How can you make something smart that will help them operate? This is what it generally looks like. So like, well, I have a product and I think I'm going to build this business and I'm going to find some clients. But in reality, it's a lot more challenging, right? So you need stamina to do this. You'll see a lot of hurdles down the road. And I liked the discussions this morning as well that we heard. Everything around the droning and autonomous. There's so many challenges that you need to overcome. And that's where we need creativity. So do we need technical people? Yes, because we need smart solutions. Do we need business people? Yes, because it needs to have a business model. Somebody needs to be able to sell the product and we need to set a price on the product. But we also need creative people. We need the people, from our sides, we're more and more using design people to come up with solutions for the problems that we have. Whether it's in legislation, whether it's in financing, whether it's in the product, we need also the creative people to come up and to help and bring the solutions. So that's, no excuse for any of you, because we need all of you. The complexity in this is very diverse. I always use this slide to explain a little bit the journey, what it means to scale up technology. Very often this is overlooked. It starts with an idea. One of the funny things is, as a society, we put hundreds of millions in the research part, but we put probably not even 10% of the same amount in the next phase of this. So you start with an idea, coming from university, from yourself, from a group of people, from a project, and you make a product out of it. Say, hey, let's make something that we can actually sell, right? Let's make an app, or let's make a software, or let's make an electrolyzer that we can start selling. The third step is, okay, and then you need to think about a business model. So we need to set a price on this product. Are we going to sell it, or are we going to lease it? And to whom? Are we going to lease it to inland shipping, or to ocean-going freight, or are we going to sell it to ports or to shipping companies? If you've done that and you're doing your first sales, then you're at the fourth step, and you need to scale up your business. And that's, at this moment, one of the most troublesome phases in the Netherlands. That's where the most companies at this moment strand, because there's not enough financing there, there's not enough capabilities there. So scaling up your business to go worldwide, to sell your products. You sold your product here in the port of Rotterdam and the port of Drone Port is very happy with your solution. You help them, but now you have to sell it to Singapore, Antwerp, Hamburg. How do you do that? Next phase. You need money, you need people, you need network. And eventually, of course, it's scaled up. The whole scaling up of our solutions is a big missing link in many of the technologies that we have right now. We are better and better at setting up pilots. Let's try with a startup, let's try whether this product works here in the port. But now you've tried it at one quay wall, now we've got to try it at the whole 40 kilometers of quay wall. That's the next step, right? So you have to scale it up. So I'll be very brief in this, but we're Platform Zero. A little bit explaining why we do what we are. We are entrepreneurs. I do this together with my co-founder, Auke Verda. He comes from the digital side, I come from the port side, so we have a nice combination. And we decided to help startups and scale-ups in Rotterdam to scale their business. That's basically what we do. We try to set all kind of programs, campus, a fund that startups need to build their business. We're doing this in Rotterdam, second place is in Lisbon, and we want to build a network around the world so that can help these startups scale around the world. That's what we do. We do that, and everything we do has a climate aspect to it. That's where the biggest opportunity is. The biggest opportunity at this moment is to build something that's going to help us improve the impact of the port operations, help us improve the oceans, help us improve the way that we interact with everything that's around. So that's where we focus on. And this is maybe the second, a bit more technical slide, because it's been mentioned very often, you need an ecosystem for that. My statement would be, we are terrible in partnering, in working together. This is probably one of the things that we are not good at. If you, for example, can look at the ASML case, they have built an ecosystem of suppliers and businesses around them that work very closely together. We are not able to do this, not even by far. We're learning this, we're starting this, luckily, but we need to build more partnerships where we make quick and fast impact from different aspects. This is a diagram that comes from a university about what is needed in an innovation ecosystem. And this is very technical, not maybe very inspiring, but we look at this because if we start a project, you'll find that you need all this to make a project happen. So if you are starting your business, you also want to look at this, because a lot of this you'll come across during your journey as a startup. I'm not going through all of them, but I'll pick out 2 or 3 that I think are crucial. One of them is demand. You need a client for your innovation. If there's no client for your innovation, then why are you innovating? What is the idea? What are you going to bring? To whom are you going to bring it, right? So you need demand. Another one, of course, is funding, crucial. You need to find the financing. That's where very often also governments come in. There's all kind of subsidies to help startups set up their business, very important. And another one is infrastructure. And that's why we do, for example, what we do. We try to create a place where these startups and scale-ups can find investors, can find each other, can cooperate, can hold events. We're building this infrastructure where this innovation can happen. I'm going to skip this one because I think I already mentioned that one. We're based in M4H in Rotterdam West. That's an area where we're now building our campus. We've got our first 1,000 square meters there with 14 offices, event space. Always welcome to visit. We're now in discussions with City and Port to go to the next 100,000 square meters, because if we want to make serious impact, it needs to scale. There is potential, but we need to scale this. There's a lot of other beautiful innovation already happening there. If you don't know it, go check it out. But for example, the Hard Hyperloop, they won the Elon Musk Hyperloop competition 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's basically a big tube, and you shoot things with 700 kilometers through that. Things or people, really. They're going very well. They just raised 12 million. They're building the business in Rotterdam West, and they're looking now to install their first tube where they can start transportation. It could even be a competitor for ports. If this becomes very big, they can do a lot of fast transportation, and it might be a future challenger of port ecosystems. Not going into many of that. So, a lot about entrepreneurship and why we think it's so relevant for innovation, but what does this bring you? I've put some things up for corporates and governments, but I actually want to talk about 2 other ones. And one is, I think for a large group of you students, why would you engage in doing this as an entrepreneur? And I think there's a lot of also reasons why I started it. So for me, it's quite simple. But first of all, it's fast learning. Doing this as a business, setting something up yourself, you learn so much about what it means to be a company, to do your own finances, to find a client, to work in a team, to build a structure, to build a culture in your team. There's so much that you will experience, and it will be so much faster than in a normal environment that I can very much encourage you from that perspective. The other one, which I also liked, is you will have direct impact in the field that you want to. We meet a lot of entrepreneurs saying, I want to make an impact for climate, so I started this solar panel company because this is my quickest way to do it. There's also a way to do this in big corporates and in governments. I think the most direct way to do this is through entrepreneurship. And of course, I think it's just a lot of fun. You'll meet people, you meet like-minded people that are looking for solutions. And it's very inspiring to work with all people that are very driven to run and bring a solution to the market that's not there. And they inspire each other, and also they bring each other to next levels. So they really challenge each other. So that's very interesting. I also think, and that's not on here unless you put it on the government, I think it's very interesting for schools like this, right? I think SEC, a beautiful learning institute, but it also needs to challenge itself on where it's going. It needs to see the future work. So the good thing that SSA and Adrian all compliments that you're organizing this is you take the outside world in as an institute, and you get to hear what's going on in the outside world. So having this institute challenge itself on the relevant learning aspects, but also on the way of working. There's just the way that we are innovating is changing rapidly. We went from very linear innovation to now we're doing pilots. You heard it Oscar saying it. Think big, but act small. Do small steps and learn. Fast learning on the innovation is something we're not good at. So bringing this into a learning institute and learn about this new way of innovation and these new fields of innovation, I think it is crucial for SEC as well. And that's maybe my final comment or maybe challenge. Rutger Bregman is one who writes a lot about climate and also about how we deal with it and also what it brings people. I believe that we need to change something, and we need to change something quicker than we think, and also quicker than we can. There's a lot of vested business here that wants to move, but it's very difficult to move for all kinds of reasons. I think here there is a group of people, hopefully inspired about doing something and making impact for the client. If you are, please bring it to the port and help the port change the business and as fast as possible to keep it relevant and to reduce its impact. And that's my big ask and hope for this group. And that's what I wanted to share.
Dankjewel. Thank you, Mare. Let's see if there's some questions from the audience. Who wants to have a catch box? Give me a second. Ja.
Should I throw?
Doe maar jij gooien.
Yeah.
De kans dat jij verder gooit.
Ik ben linksbuiten, geen keeper.
I once played basketball, but that's a long time ago.
Hello everybody, my name is Imad Aras. I'm a teacher at the STC, but not in the port, but in the airport for aviation. So my question is about, in the beginning of your story you had a lot of information about energy, but I missed one thing, and that I think is the most sustainable form of energy, and that's the nuclear fusion. What are your thoughts about development and research on that, in that sector?
Thank you. Very relevant. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Very relevant question. And it's also, again, so we're missing Robert a lot because Robert loves this topic as well. Yeah. No, it's a very relevant question. I was not trying to be complete in my summary. It was just give an oversight. I see that I can only say two things. I see that there's more and more interest for nuclear energy. It differs a lot per country. I know, for example, that energy produced from nuclear in some countries is considered green, and in others it's not considered as green. So there is already a different stance towards how people see nuclear. I see that there's more interest in, I read something about China as having a large ambition on building nuclear plants, so there is more and more interest. I know also that there's interest from the maritime sector into this. Could it be a propulsion energy for ships? I don't know where that stands. What I find most interesting is that there are more and more also solutions coming into this field, and I think you're talking about, if you're talking about fusion, it's also nuclear power without the waste. Yeah, I've read a little bit about it, but from your question, I cannot tell too much about where that stands. I find it very interesting. What's very often complex with this is also, one, regulation, and two is also the safety aspect. It will take a very long time before this comes to market. So that would be my biggest worry with this. But I do see more and more attention in the field with both business and countries coming to the nuclear part. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Last question, if there is any.
There a question? No?
Yeah? Are you having doubts? No? No questions? Okay, let's
There's
move on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love questions.
Dankjewel. Yeah. Please introduce yourself briefly.
Oh, sorry. I'm Milo. I'm a student here at RME for maritime officer. You said something about how you like to help startups by, for example, providing capital or connections or something like that. But do you not already need to have capital and connections in order to start a startup? So where does the initial push come from?
Yeah. Again, very relevant question. There is not one single way of starting a startup, right? So some already have everything. They have an idea, they have a product. It was lying on the shelf somewhere. Somebody had a product and doesn't want to continue with it, so they took it. They already have a team. They already have their ways to find capital. And some start with nothing. I know entrepreneurs that are just entrepreneurs. They've finished their last business and they want to start a new business, and they've got no idea, no team, no finance, right? So I think this, assuming that that's your question, I mean, the smartest way, of course, is to get as much as possible already in place. So if you have a product, if you have a team, and if you already have financing, obviously that's the best way to start. But it's not always that easy. So I think it also depends very much on what kind of startup you're starting. A digital startup is one that you can start today, and maybe, if you're very good, can already have revenue tomorrow. Right? You can set up a website, and you can put up a link, buy this, and then if there's a crazy guy passing, you can have sales tomorrow. If you're buying building an electrolyzer, which produces green energy, with all the safety, technology, and supply chain issues, it can take 10 years, right? Doing a first version, building second version. So not one single answer, but the more you already have, the better it is. Are you working on an idea?
No, not yet. I'm just curious about it, that's all.
Cool, yeah, no. So please come by anytime, and we're happy to help you on your way, because that's what we need.
Mare, maybe you can say about your events that you're organizing, maybe it could be interesting for the students.
Oh yeah, so you mean second Thursday of the month? Yeah, every second Thursday of the month, in our campus close to the Marconi Towers, we have an open event from 4 o'clock in the afternoon with all kind of experts coming. 1 month we had decarbonizing shipping, next month hydrogen, next one digital, next one financing for startups. Could be interesting if you don't have financing yet. So we have every month we have an open event everybody can walk into, and so you're all invited. You can register if you go to platformzero.co. You find the events and you can register for the event. So yeah, more than invited. Thank you. Adrian.
We're going to wrap it up here.
Cool.
Mare Straetmans.